Good morning, everybody. I'm Richard, and this is People Are Talking, and we are talking today about gay school teachers. Do you want a gay to be teaching your children in school? Eric Rofes is a gay. He is also a school teacher, and the question we're going to be asking you at home today, does it really matter? Eric, does it really matter if a teacher is gay or not?
No, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is whether someone is teaching children who's able to teach them properly and is a good teacher. And those people can be gay and those people can be heterosexual.
Well, there are people on the line who disagree with you, and we're going to talk also with Merill Friedman. And a little bit later, these two will debate John Lofton on whether or not gays should teach our children on today's People Are Talking. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is Merill Friedman. Merill is an assistant principal at Halsey Junior High School in Brooklyn. She's a lesbian, or as she said before the show, the L word, right? Is that the way some people refer to lesbians?
Yes, actually it is. It's very often when gay people are talking and people who are closeted, they might not want to use what I refer to as the L word out loud.
Next to Merill is Eric Rofes. Eric is also gay, and he's a school teacher, and he was in 1978 when he came out of the closet and let people know that he was gay, and he lost his job for it. After that, he taught again for about 6 years, and you're not teaching now. Does it have anything to do with your sexuality?
No, it has to do with the fact that teaching's really hard to do for many years, and I needed a few years doing something else before I go back to it.
All right, now before we hear your personal stories, we want to give those of you at home an opportunity to please get involved in this discussion. Last week, we asked a question about whether or not pit bulls should be banned, and we had 4,000 of you call. We'd like you to get involved, too, because we feel that our viewers have great insight into what's happening out here every day. So here's the question today. Gay school teachers, does it really matter to you? Does it matter that your children are taught by gays? If it does, please register your vote by calling 1-900-720-2160. And if it doesn't matter at all to you, as long as the kids are being taught well, 1-900-720-2166. Please call now. We'll let you know how the voting goes during the program. It costs you 50 cents to make the call. All right, Merill, let's meet you. Tell us a little bit about Merill Friedman.
Well, I've been teaching in the New York City school system for just about 21 years now. I taught for many years, and I've been an assistant principal for about the past 7 or 8 years. And I think the interesting part of the story in terms of what the show is about is that when I first became a teacher, I was not aware of my sexuality, that I was a lesbian. As a matter of fact, I was married to another teacher in the school. And,
male?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I had to say that. I mean, wasn't that important to say?
That was absolutely important. And at several years thereafter, I realized that I was a lesbian, and that I wanted to be very active in the lesbian gay rights movement, and I did so, and I came out, as the phrase goes.
I came out of the closet, right, as the phrase goes. What do you mean you realized that you were a lesbian? I mean, you had grown up, gone through school. Did you date guys all during that time?
Sure. I think that when I say that I realized I was a lesbian, when one looks back on their life, I think there are many things that you could look to and you would realize what your feelings really were. I did not become a lesbian in 1971, but I became in touch with the feelings that I had, and I became in touch with the fact that I was a lesbian.
Prior to that,
you don't change your sexual orientation. It's a matter of becoming aware of it, for some people becoming more comfortable with it. And when I realized that I was a lesbian, it was very exciting to me and a very happy moment in my life, because it put me more in touch with who I was, and I felt just wonderful about it and wanted to share it with friends.
What happens? I mean, you just all of a sudden, boom, it hits you.
Well, you know, the stars come out at night and the moon's a little bit brighter, you know, things like that.
I want to really know.
Right.
I want a serious answer. How do you know?
Well, in some ways, that's you all of a sudden realize that certain things that you've been doing, the life that you've been living, is not really what you want, that you want a lot more out of life. And that for me, that meant sharing my emotions and sharing my intimate life with a woman. And that was more meaningful to me. It was how I felt good. It was how I felt that I wanted to live my life. And I began to do it. And you know, it wasn't a matter, although there are people who might wonder about this. I didn't get over the public address system and say, this is Merill Friedman, your lesbian reading teacher. I didn't do that. However, I did begin to share important things in my life with people who were friends, with colleagues. And it's the kind of news that travels fast.
Yeah, you don't share this with your students, though, do you?
Well, I've never, I taught in a junior high school, and I've been in the middle school system for years. I never actually made an announcement to my students. I don't think an announcement of that nature is meaningful or necessary. But the students were certainly aware that I was a lesbian, having to do with the kinds of work that I was doing outside of school, for example, shows like this.
All right. On to Eric, who did this show a few years back, because you're qualified in a variety of fields, children of divorce, death and dying, and today you're our expert on gay school teachers.
Not expert, just one experience.
What happened to you? Tell us your story.
Well, I was teaching in a 6th grade in a private school outside of Boston, Massachusetts. It was my first teaching job out of college. I was 22 years old and also beginning to get active in the gay and lesbian rights movement, starting to do TV shows like this. Before I started doing that, I felt it was important to inform the principal of my school that this was going to happen and to see how her feelings were about it.
Why did you feel, before you tell us about that confrontation, why did you feel it was important?
I felt it was important for her to know that I was going to be going on TV talking about, in 1977, 78, a very controversial topic. These were Anita Bryant times, and that I owed that to her. I wasn't telling her she had a choice about whether I was going on TV or not, but I wanted her to know that. For a variety of reasons, word got out through the school. People listening in on someone else's phone conversations, basically, and before I knew it, the kids knew. And it came before the school board about whether I should be allowed to continue teaching. Interestingly enough, this had been my 2nd year as a school teacher. I was getting very good recommendations from the kids and the parents. The parents organized to support me, and unanimously the parents wanted me to stay teaching in the school. The school board...
Some of the parents, not all of the parents. I mean...
All of the parents.
All of the parents wanted you to
I only had 18 sets of 18
Oh,
kids
okay.
in my class that year,
okay.
so it wasn't like there was millions of parents. But they basically felt that what mattered was that their kids had a good teacher. They thought I was a good teacher. They felt like many parents feel that good teachers are rare in schools these days, and they didn't want someone to leave just because of their sexual orientation. The school committee felt differently, and I was not rehired for the following year. I thought I'd never teach again. I was hired by another school in the Boston area to teach a combined 6th, 7th, 8th grade class where I taught for 5 years and had a very exciting and rewarding experience there.
Now, when did you realize that you were gay?
When I was around 12.
Well, I mean, what happened? How did you realize it? How does it arrive at you? And Merill saw stars and things, and the moon was a little brighter. What happened for you?
Well, I was a kid. I began noticing Elvis Presley in movies instead of Anne Margaret. I think it was just as simple as that. I began feeling different from other people, wondering when my feelings would change, wondering why my friendships with other boys had such intensities around them. And then, as I started coming into overtly sexual feelings as a kid, realizing that my fantasies were about guys.
About Elvis instead of Anne Margaret, right?
Yeah.
All right. What we're going to do in just a couple of minutes, we're going to meet John Lofton. You know him from Square Off, and he has some issues to take up with the two of you. And we want those of you at home to please get involved in this show today by calling our 900 number and letting us know if it matters to you at all if any of your children's teachers are gay. If it does matter, let us know. 1-900-720-2160. If you could care less, you don't care at all, 1-900-720-2166. 50 cents to make the call. Call now if you will. We'll meet John Lofton in a moment.
Friday at 9, how deep are the seeds of racism planted in Maryland?
All right, now we're going to continue our discussion on whether or not gay teachers matter. John Lofton is joining us to kind of represent the opposition to our two teachers, Merill and Eric, today. John is a reporter for the Washington Times News. a columnist, please excuse me,
That's all right, you're
for the
forgiven.
Washington Times newspaper, a columnist and not a reporter, does a daily radio talk show in Washington, former editor of the Conservative Digest and a regular panelist on Channel 13's Square Off. And the issue today, the 900 number that our viewers are calling now, is gay teachers. Does it matter? Why does it matter to you?
Well, it matters to me for two basic reasons, I guess might be called metaphysical and physical reasons. I am an Orthodox Bible-believing Christian who defends the Hebrew Christian tradition in this country, the tradition on which this country was founded and our laws were founded. Let me say that we happen to be talking about homosexuality today, but I'm also against adulterers teaching our children. I'm against people who have sex outside of marriage teaching our children, because I think teachers ought to be of good character. I don't think people who engage in homosexual sex are people of good character. As a matter of fact, sodomy is a crime in 24 of our states. It's a crime. We ought to care if our teachers are committing crime. When you talk about homosexuality, obviously in the case of men only, you're talking about sodomy. Also, it's important to talk a little bit about the history of the opposition to sodomy. The opposition to homosexuality, to homosexual sex, has very ancient roots. I'd like to quote just briefly from the Supreme Court decision last year which upheld a Georgia law against sodomy, and it said this: "Sodomy was a criminal offense at common law and was forbidden by the laws of the original 13 states when they ratified the Bill of Rights. In 1868, when the 14th Amendment was ratified, all but 5 of the 37 states in the Union had criminal sodomy laws, and until 1961, all 50 states in our Union outlawed sodomy."
All right, so the issue I'd like to raise with you, and then I'd like you all to get involved,
Yes.
certainly with John, is what happened? Why does what happened in the privacy of one's bedroom matter, as
crime.
long as they're a good teacher?
It's a
I mean, it's
crime.
your kid. Okay.
People who teach our children
People
should not
speed
be
on the highways, too.
committing crimes.
Yeah,
Well, I don't
I'd
think
like
committing
to
sodomy
respond
is
to
like
that.
speeding on the
First
highway.
of all, something that's been stated here, many things that have been stated here are incorrect.
Like
First of
what?
all, sodomy is not just sexual relations between men. Sodomy has to do with any sort of sexual relations that are not heterosexual, married, missionary position
I'm talking about
sex.
homosexual sodomy.
Therefore, that makes a hell of a lot of people in the United States of America criminals.
Yeah, we've got a lot of criminals in this
So
country.
we're
You're
talking
right.
about our
You're
mothers,
right.
our fathers, our sisters,
No,
our brothers.
maybe your mother
both
and your father, not my mother and my
heterosexual
father.
and gay and lesbian
No.
people. We're talking about now remember that, we're talking about married heterosexual people, according to this gentleman's definition, which is incorrect, committing sodomy.
You will agree that married people do engage in sodomy? Do you
They may or may not do it. If they do it, it's illegal, and we shouldn't have people who
Well,
break the law teaching our children.
well,
See?
then-
Very much likewise, simply because you know someone is a gay man, you do not know what sexual practices go
Oh,
on in their
really?
bedrooms.
Really? You don't think gay men commit sodomy?
I'm not saying gay men don't. I'm not saying straight men don't. I am saying that you, looking at me right now, you do not know what goes on in the privacy of my bedroom with my lover.
Well, unfortunately, because of the vile sexual practices engaged in by, particularly by male homosexuals, we can't be very explicit as to what you do. But I'd like to talk about some of the physical
Well, I'd like to
and
know
health
why this
objections.
turns to people's private sex lives. We're talking about people as school teachers.
That's right.
And when you're talking about someone being a heterosexual or you're talking about someone being a homosexual, you are not necessarily knowing what goes on in their bedrooms, nor do
Yeah.
I believe
Well, I
that
know.
should be aired.
I know.
And I think people have unhealthy interests in those kinds of
Do you
things.
feel gays should not hold any important positions at all in terms of, should gays be in politics? Should gays be talk show hosts?
I don't think people...
Should gays...
I don't think people who engage in homosexual sex or who are adulterers or fornicators
What about
are
divorced
people
people?
of good character.
What about
no,
divorced
they
people?
have serious character flaws. And until 1973, the American Psychiatric Association said that homosexuality was a mental illness.
Yes, and in
A mental
1973,
illness.
the American Psychiatric Association said, boy, did we
Yeah.
make a mistake.
You know why? Because
it used
a bunch
to
of
be,
homosexuals...
It used to be
You know
that
why?
Catholics
You know why?
could not eat meat on Friday.
why?
All
You
of
know
a
why?
sudden, the Pope said, Now you can eat meat on Friday.
You know
now
why-
it used
you know
to
why they
be that
changed
there
the
was a
ruling?
great deal of racism
Wait a
in
minute,
this
let's talk about the
country.
psychiatric.
May I
let's talk-
finish,
no,
please?
no, I want to comment on what you
It
said.
used
We'll
to
get you
be
back.
that blacks had no rights in this country.
We're not talking about blacks, we're
And
talking about
it was
homosexuals.
not until
They're not like
Brown
blacks.
versus Board of Education,
This had nothing to do with
and it
racism.
wasn't until
No.
this, the Federal Civil Rights Bill that blacks were afforded the
Nice try.
same
No, no,
basic
you're not
civil
like blacks.
rights
Sorry, you're not
that
like blacks.
people should have.
No.
Wait,
She's
And
not
it's
saying
the
we
same
are.
thing.
She is
First of all,
saying
let John
that there is
respond.
something
First of all,
called social change.
First of all,
and
you-
because something
look,
was
there's
so
two of
many
them, and
years
one of
ago
them I gotta be
doesn't
allowed to
mean
Here's
talk.
what we have to do.
it has
First of all, well, one thing we have to do for those people that are now going nuts at home is give you guys an opportunity
it's
to
two
be
against
a
one,
nice
and I've
heated-
got to be allowed to talk as much as they do. So.
Well, we're not keeping a clock,
Fine,
and you
fine.
always
Now-
manage to get your time in whenever you're on the show. So don't.
Being a homosexual.
But you wanted to respond.
Yeah,
I want to let you do that.
Being a homosexual is not like being a black. See, no human being in the United States or anywhere ever chose to be black. You choose to engage in the kind
well,
of
you're,
sex.
you're incorrect.
Yeah, well, no, you're incorrect. You just lie about what you do and say you have no control over it. Of course, people can control their sexuality. That is absurd.
Sexual orientation
Let me
is
respond
not
to what
a
you.
choice.
You've already had
a
something. Let me
person-
respond to
Bro,
what
give
you
one
said.
second.
Go ahead.
The American
Go for it.
Psychiatric Association in 1973 took homosexuality off its list of mental illnesses because a group of homosexual thugs came in and broke up their meeting, threatened to shut it down unless they changed their diagnostic handbook. Now, I want to talk about the health.
Excuse me, I want to know if I look like a thug because I
Were
happen
you
to
one
be
of them?
very
Were
active
you one of
in
them?
that
Were you
particular
there?
movement
Well, if you
involved
tried
in the
to shut
National
down the
Gay
meetings-
Task Force. That's
Yeah,
absolutely
if you
incorrect.
if you were one of the-
Dr.
Hold
Judd
it, please.
Marmon
You got to be
ahead of it.
respectful to one another, otherwise it's
If
going
you
to
were
be.
one of the ones who yelled
It's
and
hard to be
screamed,
respectful when somebody calls you a thug. I mean,
yeah,
it's really
if you were one of the
embarrassing.
people who stood in the aisles and screamed and yelled and tried to shut down the meeting, then you are indeed a thug.
Well, I would say that
Now-
your description of what happened is totally
No, it's not my
completely
description.
incorrect.
It's a guy named Ronald Bayer who wrote a whole book all about this.
Let's before you
talk
go
about
on, I
health.
want to talk.
Let's
Before
talk
you
about
get into health, stop.
Yeah.
Before you talk about health, let's talk about Eric and let's talk about Merill. Your qualifications, despite, albeit your homosexuality, your qualifications to teach children in the classroom. I mean, you're not discussing your homosexuality. You're not imposing your sexuality on the kids, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So what you are doing is you're teaching. Why are you qualified to be a teacher, and why does it not matter that you're homosexual?
I'm qualified to be a teacher because I studied teaching at Harvard, and I went out and got a job as a school teacher, and I taught for 8 years working with children and gained a lot of good experience with it.
And, well, I've been in the school system in New York City for 21 years. I have an excellent record. It's sort of interesting to me because it seems as if lesbian and gay teachers have to prove that they're excellent teachers as opposed to satisfactory teachers. Now,
Or
I
less
haven't-
than satisfactory.
well, but the thing is, a heterosexual teacher does not have to explain their qualifications, does not have to explain how good they are, does not have to give examples. It happens to be that I am a very good teacher, and I'm a very good administrator and supervisor.
Now, is that possible that Merill, I'll get out there, that Merill is a very good teacher and a very good administrator? Is that possible, John?
Look, it's possible that you could have someone who typed 500 words a minute, and the first night on the job, they stole the typewriter. What I'm suggesting is you cannot uncouple a person's character and morality from what they are. You can't privatize it and try to hide it and say, well, what we do in private is of no relevance to what we do on the job. Suppose you robbed banks in private. Suppose you molested children in private. Suppose you ran a pornography business in private. I wouldn't want my kids to be taught by you.
Here's the 900 number again as the discussion heats up. We hope your phones will too. Should gay teachers, does it really matter to you? Yes? 1-900-720-2160. If you feel it doesn't, 1-900-720-2166. Dial carefully, 50 cents a call, and we'll be back with the first tally on these votes in a moment.
Monday at 9, the bad boy of the White House press corps, Sam Donaldson.
All right. 9 bottom, $1,400 in our Dialing for Dollars jackpot. 9 bottom, $1,400. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And the last 4 digits on this first call, 9203. Yes, I have new glasses. Yes, I do. I can finally see again. Last 4 digits, 9203, 9 bottom, $1,400. Remember, you have to know the count and the amount in the jackpot if you want to be a winner. And there's the third ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Last four digits, 9203, will add $13 to the jackpot. And the next call will be worth $1,413. I want to remind you that next week some of the show's coming up. And if you'd like seats, you can call 481-3000 right now. For audience seats, Sam Donaldson from ABC News will be here on Monday. Find out why former Speaker of the House Tip O'Neill calls Sam the meanest man in Washington. On Thursday of next week, Eileen Ford of the world-famous Ford Modeling Agency will be here to select from a group of young women who have already entered their pictures and their names the Supermodel of the Year from Baltimore, and she will go to the Supermodel of the World contest and perhaps become a Super Ford model. We're also going to be talking next week about safe sex clubs. Are they a solution to the spread of AIDS? 481-3000 for audience seats. And if you're here, you could win prizes. Thanks. All right, right now, let me give you a tally on the vote and give you an opportunity to call the 900 number. We really do want you to get involved in this discussion. Does it matter if your children have gay school teachers? And if it does matter, that number to call is 1-900-720. What's the number there, John? Because I don't have it here, and it didn't pop up. So it's 1-900-720-2160 if the answer is yes, and if the answer is no, 1-900-720-2160. Right now, the voting is 51% yes, 49% no. Your comment?
Well, everybody in Baltimore knows about Mr. Lofton's homophobia. I'm not here to take issue with that. I'm here to take issue as a person who went to Maryland public schools. I was gay. I had one of his Christian teachers who told me I was scum.
You say you were gay. You are
I
gay.
am. And everybody found out when I was a senior in high school. One of his Christian teachers called me scum, said I should have been institutionalized. I had another male teacher that helped me deal with it, helped me graduate, get through it. Years later, I found out he was gay. So I would much rather have a gay teacher than his so-called Christian teacher.
John?
Well, this business about homophobia, I mean, we've got a disease now called AIDS, which the Secretary of Health and Human Services says is going to be worse than the Black Plague, which killed 2/3 of Europe. I think it's not irrational to be fearful of homosexuals, particularly promiscuous male homosexuals who have spread the AIDS disease. So I'm not sure what homophobia means. It seems to me you're going to have a lot of people that are going to be increasingly frightened of homosexuals like yourself because it is an alternative death style. What you do kills people, and the first people you kill are your own homosexual male friends.
Sorry, my roommate is heterosexual and he has AIDS. So
Well,
it's
how'd he get
not
it?
a gay
How'd he get
issue.
it?
It's not a
How
gay
did he
issue.
get
it?
I don't know. I didn't
Yeah.
ask him.
Oh, he's your roommate, and he's a heterosexual? Have you had sex
Does
with him?
happen, you know.
Have you had sex with him?
He's heterosexual. No.
Oh, you haven't? He's your roommate, but you haven't had sex with him, huh?
He
No.
says no.
Yeah, I don't believe you.
Wait, I want to ask you, you said that, why did you huffing, why are you hissing and
Because you're getting into a real dangerous area.
What's that?
Which is judging people's bases
You better believe
on
it.
whether or not their sex, on what they do in their bedroom.
That's right.
I mean, should we judge you and your ability to be here because of
You know
what
why?
you do in your
You
bedroom?
know why?
Should we decide
'Cause what
whether
you
or
do
not
in your
you're a
bedroom kills people, friend. What you do in your bedroom
How the hell
has
do you know
killed
what goes
thousands
on
of
in my bedroom?
Really?
How do you know what's... I have
Why
never
do you lie
seen
about
you
what
in
you
my
do?
bed.
Why do you come on a television show and
I have
pretend like
never,
you don't commit sodomy? Why do you do that?
I have never seen
Why do you do
you
that?
in my
Seriously,
bedroom.
why do you do that?
So
Why
how do you know
Hold on.
what goes
Look,
on?
Why do you lie?
He's making a
Why
do
are
lie?
you such an asshole?
I watch
No,
your
no, that's
language,
your
please.
game,
I'm
friend. I'm not
sorry.
into that. That's what you're
That's-
into.
You know, the
see?
last time you were on the show, you
That's what
cursed
you're
too,
into.
and
That's
I'm
what you're
sorry.
into. I'm not into that. No, that's okay.
I understand that you're getting
That's okay.
ticked off, but you have to
No,
keep
that's
a
okay.
level
Yeah.
head. Hold it, John.
Excuse
He
me.
reveals himself.
Hold it,
see.
just
He
a
reveals
minute.
himself.
What do you mean?
see.
Wait a
Yeah,
minute. Stop.
see, your sex
John, wait one
your
sec-
sex
one
practice
second.
is vile. Your
Just wait.
language is vile.
One
see?
second. I'll
Yeah.
get to you in just
Yeah.
a second.
He
What you-
curses, and you're going to reprimand me. Huh?
No, in fact,
Yeah.
I'm not. In fact, I'm going to ask you just to watch your language.
I'm
on the
sorry.
show.
he's-
Okay.
I apologize.
He can't
See,
watch
you were
his
wrong.
language.
Go ahead.
You know, you're getting into a real dangerous area when you're talking about what people do in bed
Yeah, it's real
as a
dangerous. You're right.
judgment
It's
for
killing
what they
people.
do. What we
Real dangerous.
what we should be doing is talking about competent teachers versus
Sure.
incompetent teachers.
Okay.
You know, if a person is hired if a person is hired to teach math and they don't teach math, then they shouldn't be there. They simply should not be there. And it has nothing to do with their sexuality. It has to do with whether they are a good teacher, like Eric said. A teacher should be judged on their ability to teach, not on any other criteria.
Let's talk about health, Richard.
All right, go ahead. Thank you very much. Go ahead,
Talk
Merill.
about health.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
John.
I'd like to say a couple of things.
Wait, let Merill talk. Now, let him talk.
I'd like to say a couple of things. Number one, we're talking here about teachers and their abilities. And I would say that parents are concerned as to whether or not their children are getting an education.
They're
and
not.
whether or not their children are getting an education has to do with the quality of teachers. And a person's sexual orientation does not affect whether or not they're a good teacher or a bad teacher. The only effect that I have ever seen is that lesbian and gay male teachers have a lot more sensitivity to the problems that children are facing in terms of their questions in their minds, their confusion, and the kinds of discrimination that different kinds of people face because of the kinds of discrimination that they have faced throughout their years. And there's one thing that I very strongly urge all of the people in the audience here today, all of the people at home, to think about. 10% of the population in this country is gay. We're talking about 20 million Americans. But what's very important to think about is we're talking about 10% on both sides of the desk. We're not just talking about the teachers, we're talking about the students. We're talking about youngsters who at some time, Eric when he was 12, I didn't realize I was a lesbian until I was 26. So it runs an entire age gamut, are going to realize that they are gay or lesbian, are going to get in touch with those lesbian or gay feelings, and they deserve the right to know that gay and lesbian people are all kinds of people, that they're not stereotypes, they're not myths. They are human beings with all kinds of needs, all kinds of interests. They are people. Some of us are teachers, some of us are doctors, some of us are sales clerks. We are all kinds of people. And buying into bigoted and negative stereotypes is not going to help anybody.
All right, John, go ahead. And hold on just a second. Go ahead.
If you're human beings, you ought to act like human beings. The fact is, homosexuals do things that animals don't even do. The 10% figure is hogwash. It's homosexual propaganda. And even if you were 10%, so what? Numerousness doesn't make what you do right. Now, I want to talk about health. I want to talk about a health reason to be concerned about homosexual teachers, particularly homosexual men. There's a 1983 book written by Dr. Gene Kassler. It's called Gay Men's Health. It's heavily documented, and what it reports is that homosexuals, compared to the rest of the population, are walking disease factories. They have a higher than average risk of hepatitis A and B, and this is related in part to the ingestion of human feces, by the way. The same thing is true for the so-called GI blues in homosexuals, or intestinal infections. We're talking about men here. In some places where there are lots of homosexuals who live there, 30 to 50% have amoebiasis, which is diseases caused by amoebas, whereas roughly 3% of the straight population in this country has this disease. This disease caused by amoebas, by the way, is so high in homosexual men because of anal-oral contact. And homosexual and bisexual men, according to Dr. Kassler, account for 50% of all new cases of syphilis in this country. And finally, the October 3rd, 1980 issue of the San Francisco Sentinel, which is a homosexual newspaper, reported that the risk of getting disease from homosexuals is 10 times greater than the risk for the general population. Eric. So I don't want my kids exposed to you because you're a health menace.
Your kids can only get exposed to those diseases through sexual contact.
Hepatitis?
And
hepatitis?
Yes.
No.
Hepatitis B.
No.
Secondly, I have never had any of those diseases. Why
I wouldn't leave you on a stack of Bibles.
Well, you have a hard time believing people talking about their real lives. I'm not a liar. I would not.
Do you challenge Dr. Kassler's
I would
statistics?
not be lying to you.
Do you challenge Dr.
I don't challenge those
Kassler's
statistics. I'm talking about.
You've probably read the book, haven't you?
Please let me talk. All I can do is talk about my situation. I'm one person. I'm not a researcher like you. I can't speak about all this kind of stuff. I've never had any of those diseases. I'm a good school teacher. Just let me teach.
We'll be back in a moment. Here's the 900 numbers. Call now, if you will. We'll be back to take these calls after this.
Tuesday at 9, why has Vietnam become the in war?
had about 1,000 of you calls so far, and 52% of you feel that it does matter. So far, it does matter if your son or daughter is being taught by a gay, and 48% of you right now feel that it doesn't matter. Here are the numbers if you'd like to get involved. You really should register your vote. Yes, it matters, 1-900-720-2160. No, 1-900-720-2166. 50 cents to call. Please get involved. Let's cast your vote. Good morning, caller. You're on People Are Talking. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, I'd like to know what guarantee the parents have that the children is not being taught other than the basic education. There's a whole lot of gay, I know, professionals that have approached kids, you know.
Right, and what's your point, caller?
I want to know what guarantee the parents have, you know, that they're not being taught any other thing but basic education.
Okay, did anybody catch that question? No. We have a distorted line, and we're going to turn one little thing down here, and I'm going to ask you briefly now to state your question one more time.
What guarantee the parents have other than, you know, the basic education? Because children have been approached by homosexual teachers.
You want to know what
guarantee that the parents have?
What guarantee do the parents have that the homosexual teachers are not going to approach their kids sexually? Is that?
Yeah.
I won't teach them about sex.
Well, I would say that no teacher should be teaching sex unless that teacher happens to be teaching a course called human sexuality. And so whether a teacher is gay or non-gay, when I was a teacher, I was a reading teacher. I taught reading. If you're a math teacher, you teach math. If you're teaching hygiene or sexuality, you're teaching about different areas in sexuality.
What would you tell a student, either of you that came to you and that knew you were homosexuals and said, tell me about homosexuality. Do you think it's the same as heterosexual sex between a man and a wife? What would you tell them?
Well, first of all, I would not talk about sex in the classroom because I don't think that's the place.
Afterwards they ask you?
But what I would say is that there are many kinds of people in this world, and because something might be an alternative to the majority, since 10% of the population obviously is a minority, it doesn't mean it's bad. It means it's different. There are many different ways to live our lives, and what's important is to live our lives with self-respect and self-awareness as to who we are. And the gentleman over here talked about you choose to be this, you choose to be that. The only choice I have is not what my sexual orientation is, but how I choose to live my life. And if I choose to live it with self-respect and to go out there, look in the mirror, feel good about myself, and know that I will have a positive effect on other people, that they're not going to fall down. That's what's important. So I would also like to respond to something that was said before, if that's all right, in terms of health. I'm sure the audience out there knows that 90% of sexual diseases, if you will, that occur happen to men, not to women. So perhaps this gentleman really wants to say that men should not be allowed to be teachers, but women, both lesbian and non-lesbian, should be.
You missed the whole point of Dr. Kastler's book. The whole point of her book was that homosexual men have far higher risk of all these diseases than men who aren't homosexual.
And of all classifications, lesbian women have less of those diseases even than heterosexual women. So if we take your point and extend it all the way,
how do you know that's
you're
true?
saying...
What's your source for that statement?
Documentation of adult sexuality.
What's your source for that statement?
Try the CDC.
The CDC.
Okay.
Let me ask you...
Check it. And then you would be saying that lesbians are the best to be school teachers.
No, I don't think so. Let me ask you a question about what you argue is, I guess, almost your total lack of self-control over the kind of sex you practice.
Would you say that again?
Yeah, I say your position is, I guess, that you have almost no self-control over the kind of sex.
And you're also very rude.
You said that your homosexual sex. You said that the homosexual sex that you practice.
No, I said that one sexual orientation.
Yeah, yours. I'm talking about you.
Hold it.
You're saying that your lesbianism is something you didn't choose. I'd like to know how much choice do you have over the kind of sex you engage in.
You're confusing sexual orientation and actual sex.
Yeah.
There are two different things.
Oh, you can control the frequency of sex.
You're very confused.
Hold it, John.
Is that true? You can control the frequency of sex.
You're very mixed up.
I'm asking you a question. Can you control the number of partners you have?
Can you control the number of partners you have?
Or is that involuntary also?
Caller, you're on the air. Hello.
You're playing dumb, but not very good.
Yes, go ahead.
Not very good. Not very good.
Excuse me, if they'll listen just a second.
Go ahead, you're on the air. Turn your TV down. Don't try to follow the debate. You'll go nuts.
Right. My statement has already been hit on, but I'd like to add to it. I feel these people, they should be judged on their qualifications only. And another thing, I have had the experience of meeting so-called straight teachers in the public school system, and I think those people should be put out. And some of these people that are homosexuals, their qualifications are so much higher than these so-called straight men.
What's the matter? What's the matter, Eric? Well, wait, what you're saying is bothering Eric, because I think you probably feel that the best people should be there teaching, no matter what they are, what color, what...
They should be judged on their qualifications only.
Okay, hold on. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like the arguments that the caller just made, I mean, gay people are people. And as school teachers, we should be judged, as the caller said, as what our abilities are to teach. I think the argument starting to make that straight people are not good teachers or that gay people are better school teachers is also dangerous. I mean, I think there are good gay teachers and there are lousy gay teachers, just like everything else. Those of us in education really are concerned about the fact that we need more good teachers and that school systems need to support their teachers, which isn't happening in most places.
Back in a moment.
Wednesday at 9, using PCP can cost you. It's no excuse.
All right, here we go again. 9 bottom. Quiet a minute. Jeez, whiz. 9 bottom. It's over on the other side here. 9 bottom, 1413. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The last 4 digits on this call, 6, 1, 9, and 4. 6194, 9 bottom, $1,413. On Wednesday of next week, on People Are Talking, we're going to be discussing whether or not drug abusers should be charged for the crimes they commit while under the influence of those drugs. You know about Leonard Cirencioni. We got a recording there at 944-6194. We'll add 13 to the jackpot, 1426 on the next call, $1,426. Leonard Cirencioni was convicted of murder. He ran down a traffic police officer, Richard Miller, last year. You'll remember that. He was under the influence of PCP. He is now qualified for the death penalty. There's a lot of controversy over whether or not he and other people who commit crimes while under the influence of drugs should in fact be held responsible for those crimes. How do you feel about it? We're going to hear both sides of this heated debate next Wednesday on People Are Talking. Call 481-3000 for free seats if you'd like to be part of that show, 481-3000. And if you're in the studio audience live here that day or any day next week, you could win free tickets to the Washington Ballet's season final concerts at the Lyric Opera House. So call right now. Wait for your cue. See when the man cues. You've been talking. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think it does make a difference if the homosexuals are teaching young children. In a working world, in a working adult world, I think if you want to accept homosexuals, whatever, I mean, that's fine. But in the very tender young years of children, I mean, their minds they're very gullible, and I think mostly all kids have it. One time or other fell in love with their school teachers, and then they're so easily influenced until I think that they really should make a difference.
So you're saying it's okay in junior high or high, but not in elementary school?
Maybe in senior high or college, because they have more or less formed their own opinions, and they have...
You're assuming, though, therefore, that the teacher would let the kid know what he or she is...
Well, kids have a way of finding out
all
things.
Right, Merill?
Yeah, well, I would say this. I grew up in a very heterosexual society. All of my teachers, as far as I knew, were heterosexual. All the influences around me. Don't forget, I'm 42, so things were even much more so in those days than they are now. And yet I grew up to be a lesbian. my teachers' sexual orientation, the influence of my teachers, the teachers all came in, they talked about their husbands, their wives, their children. It was it was the hard sell, so to speak. That didn't change who I was inside of me. My sexual orientation is not going to affect those youngsters. And in addition to which, I think that what one's sexual orientation is not what you're teaching kids anyway.
John, what are you shaking your head for?
Well, that's absurd because we may differ on this issue, but nobody will differ that teachers are role models for students, and the younger the student is, the more imitative the student's behavior of the teacher. And when a lesbian stands before a class and everybody knows she's a lesbian, and she tells students, as she told me earlier, she would say that it's just another alternative kind of lifestyle, of course that lends respectability to homosexuality.
If children were that easily influenced and that easily wanting to follow what their teachers did, then all of the students at my school would be reading on or above grade level, because that's what I want them to do and that's what I talk about. And yet that doesn't happen. It doesn't work that way. That's not life.
Caller, you're on the air. Before we get to your comment, 1,200 of you calling, still 51 to 49. Yes, it matters. No, it doesn't matter, 49%.
This is interesting data because Baltimore is a very liberal city, too.
It is. Well, we're also seen in 7 other states. But anyway, there are the numbers. We're taking in the final. We're taking the final tallies now. You have about, I guess, 5 more minutes to cast your ballots if it matters. There it is. And caller, you're on the air now. Hello.
Good morning, Richard. I think you look very handsome today.
Thank you for calling. Next call.
I would like to say that I don't think the teachers should be teaching our young children.
Okay, give a reason.
Simply because they're saying that it is an alternate lifestyle. It isn't. They're trying to push it on us that it is acceptable and it's normal, and it is not.
Better. Some of them even argue it's better. I've heard it said that being a homosexual is better than being a heterosexual.
I am tired of the gay community pushing on us that this is acceptable and it's normal, and it isn't.
It isn't. You are absolutely
Despite
right.
the fact that your kid might be getting a great education from Merill and...
Then they should stay in the closet and not advertise that they're gay. And
so wait a minute. So that's the issue is that you would just as soon not know about it, and that would be okay?
No, I don't want them. I wouldn't want my son who's in the 6th grade to be taught by a gay man simply because if it's a known fact that he's gay. They're trying to push it on us that it's acceptable. And it isn't acceptable. It's not normal. And they're sick in their mind.
All right, thanks for your call. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, I believe in a pluralistic society that it is acceptable and that there are differences among people, and this is one of the differences. I also believe that the strongest influence on children are their parents. And I don't believe this woman has to feel threatened if for 1 year her son has a gay teacher and the kid knows about it. I believe the parent's influence, if the parent is someone that the child respects and most wants to emulate, the parent is the greater role model.
Well, what you said used to be true, but with the breakdown of the family in our society, and with the fact that kids today from K through 12 spend an average of 15,000 hours with teachers, it is arguable that teachers now have more time with our kids than we do. So it's more important than ever that teachers be of good moral character. And you can't duck that issue by saying that what I do in the privacy of my bedroom is my own business. It has nothing to do with your character. It does. It has everything to do with what you are.
Children need to see, as a school teacher, my best service as a role model is as an honest, good person
but
who
your
cares.
Character is not irrelevant.
John, hold on a
Excuse me, that the character is not what race I am, the fact that I'm Jewish, the fact that I'm gay. The character issue is what I'm like as a person, and that I'm a caring individual and a sensitive man working with children. And I think that's really what I want to model for children.
Well, but you keep trying to say you keep trying to say that because you're a sodomite has nothing to do with what you are as a person.
Well, he did not say he wasn't a sodomite.
Well, he is a sodomite. If he's a homosexual, he's a sodomite. Defend your faith, friend. Defend your faith.
Well, sodomite
I have
is not
to
a
say,
religion,
I'm intimidated by all this sex talk and this gutter talk and
gutter talk. That came from your friend out here in the audience.
I'm sorry. The gutter talk came from you, and you might be used to talking about it all the time.
What's the gutter talk?
Just a minute, please.
What's the gutter talk?
And I have to say, I'm just absolutely fascinated by your fascination with sex. We're here to talk about teachers, not sex.
You don't want to talk about what you
And that's all you seem to want to talk about.
Homosexuals
That
never
is
want to.
all
You know why
you want to
homosexuals?
talk
Hold it.
about.
You know why homosexuals never want to talk about what they do sexually? Because if it was ever shown on television, it would make people throw up. It's so sickening and vile.
You know, I'm just amazed
Yeah, you said
at
that.
your
John, don't be
fascination.
rude. John, don't be rude. Hold it. Go ahead.
In terms of what Eric was saying, the concern that I think, to reiterate something I said before, that should be utmost in people's minds is what kind of a teacher you are. And that's what we care about. That's hopefully what we care about, because we want our kids to get the best education possible.
Yeah, well, they're not getting that, are they? They're not getting that, are they?
I think that's the emphasis that we have to be concerned with.
They're sure not getting that.
All right, when we come back, we're going to give you the final stats on the 900 number. You're voting, and we'll get some final comments from our guests today.
While staying in Baltimore, People Are Talking guests are chauffeured by Paramount Limousine Service, the best in chauffeur care. Our Mother's Day Queen for a Day winners will receive this lovely 14-karat gold rope-edged bangle bracelet valued at over $800 from J. Brown Jewelers.
Oh, 52% of you have voted yes, it matters. 48% of you felt it didn't matter. Eric, what is the problem? I mean, there's something that's bothered you.
No, I think the problem is that the focus of the discussion needs to be on quality education for children. And I think as a school teacher, this is just another example about us not facing real issues in our children's lives.
And you're real ticked off about the forum, what happened here today. I mean, I feel it. I mean, you made a comment about it. You might as well tell me what's bugging you.
I'll tell you after the show, but I think the issue is about, we have school teachers and schools have so many serious issues today. Things like funding, things like quality teaching. And I think that this is one of the smallest issues facing us, and that America really has to address the education of children seriously.
Look, and so, in a way, so if I understand, the thing that is probably bugging you is that the fact that it got into the sex and this stuff and these sodomite and so forth and things that, and it wasn't an intelligent discussion, in your opinion, of the qualifications of a teacher. Is that the way you feel about it, too?
Yes, and that has a lot to do with it. There was a comment that I wanted to make before that somebody someone I believe who called in talked about role models. And I would like to say very clearly that yes, teachers are role models. And it's very important that both those gay youngsters out there and those non-gay youngsters out there see that there are people who are gay, who are teachers, and that there's all kinds of people in this world, and that gay teachers are going to be fine, and some of them won't be as good as some of the non-gay teachers. But what's important is that we're human beings. We're talking about people, and we're not talking about craziness. We're not talking about myths. We're not talking about stereotypes. We're not talking about one person's fascination and obsession with certain areas. We're talking about people who are there to do a job, who are dedicated and are interested in doing what they're paid to do.
Well, when we talk about homosexuality, we are talking about craziness. We're talking about sexual craziness. We're talking about people who despise themselves. We're talking about people who are pursuing as a lifestyle a way that causes death. It is not a small issue to talk about the morals and the ethics of our school teachers. It is a central issue. And we're long past the day, friends, with this AIDS business of talking about private activity in bedrooms that doesn't hurt anybody. We heard that from you for years and years and years. Now we're finding out that what you do in the privacy of your bedroom may kill half of this world.
Now, what is it that bugged you about this, too? Because you were bothered during the break, too.
That's a ridiculous statement, because
what,
AIDS
may not kill
is
half the
a
world?
crisis. AIDS is a disaster.
Yeah,
to use it
sure
as someone who's flailing about and spouting all kinds of evilness and filth is a disgrace, and it's a disgrace against the men and women, mostly men, who have died from AIDS. And AIDS is something that we, as we all well know, who are thinking and reading people and caring people, AIDS is a very serious and disastrous disease. AIDS is spread only through either sexual contact or
By
through
who? By who? Who are the
blood
primary spreaders of
transfusions.
AIDS in this country? Do you know?
I would like
Promiscuous male
excuse me.
homosexuals.
Would
John,
you let me
let him-
finish, please?
we're running out
Would
of
you
time.
let
You
me
haven't
finish?
stopped since we began.
And only
Yeah.
there is no way, absolutely no way, that AIDS is spread through casual contact.
It's by promiscuous male homosexuals.
There's more of a
That's who
chance
spread
that I'll
AIDS.
catch John's cold than
Yeah.
anyone
you won't
here is
die
going
from
to
John's cold.
catch AIDS.
You won't die from John's cold.
Only, and you can read that certainly from the government. As a matter of fact, there was just a very big meeting of the CDC in Washington, and very clearly it has been stated time and time again that the only way that AIDS can be caught is through sexual contact.
Do people
blood
like John, do
transfusions,
you
et cetera.
dislike strongly people like John?
Well, I mean, I think what it comes down to is people are people, and some people are rude, and some
people are killing other people, though, with their sex.
And
Some
having
people
to say
are
what
killing other people with their sex, though.
The fascination with sex is incredible to
it's
me.
killing people. It's going to kill
Christian on the
millions.
stage.
Your sex
I want to
practice
thank
is
you all
gonna
for
kill
being here
millions.
today. Tomorrow we're going to get
Smiling.
into
It's funny,
the
isn't it?
black and white issue of racism in our community, and we'll do that tomorrow at 9. Thank you all for being here. This is our final dialing for dollars call, and we're 9 bottom, $1,426. 9 bottom, 1426. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And the last 4 digits on this call, 0351. 0351, 9 bottom, $1,426. And this is our final call of the morning. Don O'Brien makes other calls later in the day. And there's the third ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 0351 are the last 4 digits. We'll add 13 to the jackpot. Our next call will be worth $1,439. $1,439. I want to remind you again that on Wednesday of next week, we're going to talk about what price should a drug abuser pay for his or her crimes committed while under the influence. Some people feel they should be excused or found almost not guilty by reason of drug influence, just as some people are found not guilty by reason of insanity. This case in point, of course, Leonard Princioni, who killed a police officer running him down with his car last June, and he was found guilty of first-degree murder and faces the death penalty. How do you feel about this controversial issue? Be part of our studio audience by calling 481-3000 right now. 481-3000, ask for seats, and if you're in the audience next Wednesday, you could receive free tickets to the Washington Ballet's season finale. Coming up on Eyewitness News at noon today, I'll look at some senior citizens who believe it's never too late to learn a new hobby. A second man has been arrested for the murders of 5 people in the Pimlico apartment massacre. And you've heard of the horse with no name. The greengrocer has a report on the horse beam. Tomorrow at 9, both sides of the racial prejudice issue. It is not all black and white. Find out why tomorrow at 9.